Welcome to our guest, Matthew Chheng. Please introduce yourself and your current role. We will learn about digital forensics and information governance from you and how to enter this field. Hopefully, for anyone who is interested in this field, Matthew can answer your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Francesca. Hello, everybody. I am Matthew Chheng. I've been doing digital forensic investigation for 18 plus years. And my current role right now is mostly freelance work. I do consultation work where I do information governance and digital forensic investigation for local firms, small companies, school districts, that sort. And, I get my work that way from recruiters, from consulting agency, things like that. So we'll kind of start my session off kind of like a Q&A, questions you may have in terms of career path and how to prep, how to get into this field, the skills and tools that we use, and maybe like daily work and the challenges that we face on a daily basis, and then kind of where the career and trends are going in this field, and then maybe answer some of your questions in terms of the legal and ethical aspects of this work. And then we'll end it with just basic practical advice from me. So I'll start. Anyone has any questions in terms of how to get into this career?
We got our first question. From an investigator standpoint, what is the most common information governance failure you see that critically hinders the digital forensics investigation?
I think the biggest failure is acting early on, being reactive as an organization. I think if organization can learn to react before things go bad, it certainly would be beneficial for them. So they tend to be more reactive, like, oh, something bad happened. Now we'll do this to fix it, or I'll give you an example of that. Let's say an employee leaves and they don't do anything, and time goes by, and a year or 2 years later, they say, oh, we need you to pull up the data for this employee. And that data is already gone because we didn't put a hold on it. So that's probably the biggest challenge that I see in terms of information governance in an organization.
So another question is, what are some foundational skills to get into digital forensics?
Yeah, I think like I mentioned earlier in the panel, it's so important that you understand the cybersecurity foundation, so you can understand the lingo when you're in meetings or you're talking to different stakeholders. So if you're not familiar with the foundation of cybersecurity, I highly recommend you take a course either at your local college, or go online. Google has a bunch of courses that you can take for free. Microsoft also. It's a great way to start and kind of build that foundation.
And then following up on that, sort of what steps would someone take to get in this field? I think it's a fascinating field. So excited to learn more.
Yeah, I think in every organization, there's going to be opportunities for you to get into this field. I'll give you my story. When I started out in this field, I was a line officer with the Federal Judiciary, Federal Probation Department. And early on, the agency was sending digital devices to other three-letter agencies to have it analyzed, and we were waiting 3 to 6 months for the results. And the agency had the foresight to pick out a few people, myself included, to send to the FBI and Homeland Security to get trained and get us the certification we needed. And that way we can do the forensics in-house. So that's how I kind of got into forensics. So look for that type of opportunity within your own organizations. cybersecurity is everywhere now, whether it be the financial sector, government, or hospitals. They're everywhere. And if you're interested, just talk to people in that department and find a mentor and find out what work you can do or volunteer for. Take free classes. NW3C.org has a lot of free courses that you can take. Google has a bunch. I just can't recommend enough. I mean, it's free. They're small little sessions that you can take, 1 hour block, 2 hour blocks, or days of block to get that certification or that foundation that you need just to get into it.
So another question, how are you and others using AI in DFIR work?
Oh, good question. AI is if I always say, if you're not using AI, you're going to be behind. It's such a powerful tool. One way we use AI is to build scripts to look for tasks that can be repeated. Say you're starting a case and you need to create certain folders, case folder, evidence folders, deliverables. And every time you start a case, you have the same subset of folders that you're gonna be needing. So easy to get into AI and say, hey, write me a script. I need these folders, and then boom, you have it. And then every time you start a new case, you start that script, and you got all those folders in place. I'll give you another example of how I use AI on an investigation that involved over 300,000 text messages. I mean, it would take days and weeks to go through that and categorize it into a different category. And AI was able to do this for me in seconds. All I had to do was redact the personal information and just throw all that into AI and say, hey, summarize these messages into these categories. And it does it in seconds.
I think this is a similar question. So maybe I think we've kind of mostly covered this, but maybe there's something else to add here. How are you seeing AI and machine learning being practically applied in modern forensic tools to sift through massive data sets and identify evidence more effectively?
Yeah, I think this is a good follow-up question. AI is being used with every single forensic tools right now. They're instituting that, and they're putting it in the back end of the forensic tool to help speed up the process of analyzing data, because there's just so much to go through. You got millions and millions of internet history to go through, emails, chats, and so it's just impossible to look through that and get what the stakeholder needs right away. So AI is certainly helping, and it's reducing fatigue and burnout for practitioners in this field. So I think it's just going to take off, and AI is going to be used more and more. The caveat of working your turnaround time to be much quicker. So it's a double-edged sword with AI.
What are top forensic tools that you're using?
So the main tools are out there. There's a slew of them. Sala mainly focuses on mobile devices and Mac, Apple devices. Axiom Cyber and Axiom Mobile does the same sort of thing, but they're more of the processing power for analyzing data. And FTK, or Enterprises, the other player in the field. But you got so many tools out there. In terms of information governance, you're looking at Microsoft Purview, you're looking at Relativity. These tools are out there, and these are the most commonly used one in the industry.
What is your advice for AI governance?
I think there's certain parameters and guardrail that has to be in place. AI is it's like a unknown space, and we're learning every day what it can do and how scammers and criminals are using it for their benefits. I think there's certainly a need to have guardrail in place. Otherwise, you're just going to see more and more cybercrime being committed. The work is always going to be there. This field is just growing very, very rapidly.
Okay, next question. What is the most critical element for ensuring digital evidence to be admissible and hold up in court?
Oh, very good questions. I think the most critical part of forensic is the chain of custody. Documenting from the very get-go where your evidence came from, where it was found, and who handled it, who touched it, how you came about that evidence, that metadata, or that document. Where did you find it? What photo did you find it? How did you get there? What forensic tool did you use to analyze it? Having that all documented and laid out in your forensic report will make it stand up in court. I've testified numerous times in federal courts with my previous role with the federal government, and time again, my forensic report stood up in federal court and being cross-examined by both sides for hours at a time, and having your case adjudicated all the way up to the Supreme Court level speaks volume, because it's so important to have that soft skill, writing, presenting, and making it a document that anyone can pick up and understand, putting it in layman's terms.
Do newcomers to DFIR and people who are working towards a DFIR career tend to over-index on forensic tools? What non-tools based skills are important to acquire?
Yeah, like I said, the soft skills that you need to have is definitely, learning to write, learning to document, and learning to keep a log of what you're doing as you're going, because you're not going to remember these things. And, if you have to go before a jury or a judge or an internal, hearing within the organization, you need that good note to jog your memory, so you can present your data well. Otherwise, you're just not going to remember it. So documenting, keeping a good journal, keeping a good log will help you develop a really good playbook. So for DFIR work, I can't say enough about the tools you use. You got to keep it updated. You got to, download the updates and keep it updated so you have the best tool available. And then you're documenting the version that you're using, because someone else has to be able to replicate that.
Can you recall the fastest solution for forensic case that you were able to obtain? Did it take hours, days, weeks?
A good question. That's probably the biggest misconception for forensics, that it happens within the hour from TV shows. It doesn't. Cases take sometimes weeks or a month to uncover. But I think the fastest one that I can remember involved a case where, two individuals were chatting within an organization, and they were speaking badly about their manager, and then they realized they were in the wrong chat group, and they deleted it right away. And, the manager complained, and it took it all the way up to HR level, and, HR reached out to us, and we were able to pull down those chat and review it and determine and verify that the bad chats did happen. So that happened in terms of a couple of days. So that's a quick turnaround. But you'll get requests from your your stakeholder, whether it be the legal side or HR side, saying, hey, can you do this within 48 hours or 72 hours? And your best answer is, hey, I'll try. No guarantee, because you just don't know what data set you're going to be presented with.
And that leads us to another question about how does DFIR vary between cases that are with the attackers in a foreign country versus domestic? And if the attacker's in a place where they cannot be prosecuted, do you conduct the DFIR work differently?
I'm sorry, you broke up. I didn't hear the question.
Sure. How does the DFIR vary between cases where the attacker is in a foreign country versus domestic? And so the second part to that is, if the attacker is in a place where they cannot be prosecuted, do you conduct the DFIR work differently?
Yeah, DFIR, if it's within the government setting, and you're looking at maybe like classified materials, and the attackers in a foreign country, prosecution is going to be difficult. But the government works with Interpol, reaches out to other countries to further investigate that. I personally don't have hands-on experience with this type of work, but from speaking to colleagues in the field, there's really not much you can do because they're in a foreign country like Russia or China. But if it's domestic within an organization, sure, it's taken all the way to the prosecution level, where you're working with the U.S. Attorney's Office. You're working to request CISA requests for that organization or that person, and you're taking that case all the way to prosecution.
But what are some interesting cases you're allowed to speak about?
Yeah, let's. That's a good one. I have so many cases to share, but I'll share one that is a big win for me when I was at the Federal Judiciary with Federal Probation Office. We did a search on a person who was on supervised release, and he kept failing his polygraph, and his case officer suspected that he was still doing bad things, and requested a search. And we went out in a team, and I was the lead forensic investigator on site. And we got to the house, and it was just a huge mess. And there was just so much hoarding going on, and our team split into different rooms, and then began the search. And we didn't find anything in the main house. But when we got to the garage, it was stacked from wall to wall of stuff. And it was just going to be impossible to go through that. We were able to split it into 4 quadrants, and we worked ourselves to the middle. And one of the quadrants I was involved in searching, I came across a little tiny iPod that you used to wear on your shoulder to go running. And the suspect immediately ran over and said, hey, it's just my MP3 player that I use to go listen to music and do workout on. And I remember looking at him, and I'm like, workout? Yeah, I don't think so. So I took that and I analyzed it, and lo and behold, it had a secondary. He had modified the MP3 player to half of it hold music, and the other half hold CSAM material. And it was just thousands and thousands of videos and images. And we were able to extract all that data, put it in a forensic report, present it to the U.S. Attorney's Office for prosecution. I ended up getting a lot of time in prison for it. So that was a good win for us.
I love it. A great story. All right, so next question. How much interaction do you have with lawyers? And how early in the DFIR process do you deal with counsel?
I would say if you're doing DFIR, you're going to be dealing with lawyers immediately. I mean, anytime there's an incident or a request, most of the time it comes from legal counsel. And, you know, sometimes they ask you to do things and you don't even know why. They're like, okay, I want you to preserve this data and put it all in this folder, no questions asked. And you just do it because that's your job. And, you know, lawyers can be pushy and they'll tell you, hey, I need this yesterday. And you just have to stand your ground and learn how to navigate and learn how to tell them, hey, I'll do my best to get you the data you need, but no promises that it's going to happen yesterday. It's going to take some time.
We loved your story. Can you share another one, maybe?
Sure. I'll share this story because this one in circuit court. This was a case that involved out in San Luis Obispo County area on a person on supervised release. And it involved the seizure of an iPad. Well, everything was done right. It was bag and tag, and chain of custody was completed correctly. The only thing that didn't happen correctly was the iPad was never put into airplane mode, and it was left on, and it was transported by the case officer back to downtown LA for me to examine. And I did my examination. I noted that the iPad was not in airplane mode. And I finished my examination, wrote the report, presented it to the U.S. Attorney's Office, and they ran with it. And it went to court, and the U.S. Attorney's Office and the defendant's attorney kept hammering me and my team about the device not being in airplane mode, and therefore it was making changes to the device, and it was, breaking the chain of custody, so to say. And we were able to convince the judge. I was able to convince the judge on the witness stand, along with my teammates, that, hey, you know what, chain of custody was intact. Yes, sure, it wasn't in airplane mode. And sure, when it traveled from San Luis Obispo to downtown LA over a 4.5-hour period, it was touching a lot of cell towers. But at the end of the day, the data did not change. The contraband did not change. The CSAM material that was on the contraband, on the iPad, did not change. It didn't get put there by those cell towers. It got, the metadata proved itself in court, and the person was prosecuted successfully.
Thank you for sharing this. We have another question. With the crypto universe in full swing, are you finding cases monumentally with monies transferring globally?
I'm sorry, can you speak louder? What was the question about crypto? Can you repeat that?
First in full swing, are you finding cases monumentally now with money transferring globally?
I left the federal government in 2023, so I'm not seeing, when I was still with the federal government, we saw a few crypto cases coming through our desk. It was just early on, but I think crypto is everywhere now, and criminals are using it to launder money and launder their assets, without a trace. So it's definitely a problem. I think crypto is going to be more of a problem now that the government is legalizing it, and you got firms and financial sectors investing heavily in crypto, and it's just very, very hard to track.
Last question. Are there any transferable skills to go into forensics?
Yeah, you know, whatever field that you're in, I think there's a lot of transferable skills. Writing. If you're a good writer, you're going to be able to transfer that into digital forensics, because digital forensics, you're gonna write reports all the time, and you're writing emails, you're responding to emails to lawyers. So being a really good writer really helps. What other transferable skills that, being inquisitive, like I shared in the panel earlier, my love of puzzle, learning how things work, taking things apart. I like, my hobby is to fix cars. So, when you're fixing a car, you're taking the car apart and you're cleaning it and you're putting in new parts. Well, that's pretty much what forensics is. You're looking for those cookies, those metadata in a person's history, and you're piecing together what they're doing, where they're going, where they're eating at, who they're hanging out with, and what data are they trying to steal, what data are they trying to look at. I'll give you an example of that. I did a case where HR requested that we investigate a person who was suspected of moonlighting on the side as a real estate agent. And, they went to her and said, hey, you know what, we need your laptop and your issued phone because we're servicing it and we're giving you a new one. And without her knowing, I was able to examine her two devices. And I was able to determine that, yeah, she was moonlighting, doing company time as a real estate agent. And, HR was able to use my forensic report, make a quick decision, and, confronted her. And at the end of the day, they basically gave her a break and said, hey, do you want to quit this other job? And because you've been with us for a long time, or do you want to do this real estate? And she basically said, you know what, you got me. But I'm making more money as a real estate agent, so I'll just quit. So.
Thank you so much for being on the show. I hope to see you again in the next session. And
thank you, everybody, for your time and your questions. Yeah, thank you for your time and your questions. Have a good one. Bye-bye.